Hi, I'm Susan, this is Hayley, and welcome to another episode of Cancer Research Demystified. This one is all about radiotherapy. Okay, so firstly we're going to tell you a little bit about radiotherapy and what it is, and then we'll describe some of the exciting research that's going on in the area. So, Hayley, what is radiotherapy?
Okay, so it's high energy beams. So things like X-rays or electrons, and because they're high energy, when they're shone into the body, they actually damage your cells.
So doctors and scientists have put a lot of research over the last few decades into how to minimise that effect on healthy tissue while maximising the effects of radiotherapy on the cancer tissue. Now, nonetheless, there is some healthy tissue that's still damaged, and this can result in side effects.
So if you're about to have radiotherapy or you just want some more information, you can talk to your doctor about it, because it does actually really vary. There's loads of different types of radiation, there's all sorts of different doses you might be getting, and actually the side effects vary between patients, the type of variation, even the type of cancer you have. Some of the side effects all relate to that normal damaged tissue, so things like loss of appetite, feeling tired, sickness, it can be sexual function, or it can be fertility. So we've got a special guest for you now. This is Kate Ricketts. So Kate, who are you and what do you do?
I was a radiotherapy physicist working in the NHS. So what that involves, so many people don't actually know what that is. So we do the calculations and the optimizations of radiotherapy treatment for patients to make sure we give as much damage to the tumour as we can and spare as much of the healthy tissue that we can. And we use quite complex maths to do that.
I was going to say, that sounds hard.
Which is why you do need a degree and a master's in physics to actually do this job.
So a very clever person we've got here, guys.
Well.
And now you've gone into research around this,
have,
right?
yeah. So now I'm in full-time research here at UCL, focused on radiotherapy. 50% of all cancer patients will receive radiotherapy as part of their curative treatment. The radiation beam itself, yes, it is damaging, and that's why we use it, because we want to kill cancer cells.
Yeah.
In doing that, we need to find methods based on a lot of physics and engineering to minimise the damage of the surrounding tissue. So the conventional radiotherapy that most people get is using X-rays, and that's using a linear accelerator. So these are still very complex pieces of machines, the most complex machinery you'll get in an NHS department. They're huge, I'm not sure how much they weigh, but it's about 10 tonnes, I think.
It's either in the basement or on reinforced floors often. Pretty
much, yeah. You can't just have one in a very kind of light floor, that's certainly not. But they're about 10 tonnes, but they rotate around a point of rotation that's less than 1 millimetre wide.
Wow.
Okay. So the engineering involved to do that is very complex. And this is one of the roles of the physicist, is to make sure we keep that centre of rotation as small as possible.
Yeah.
And the reason we want to do that is so that we know exactly where our radiation is going to.
So you're getting the tumour and not that normal tissue.
Exactly. So X-rays from the linear accelerator, they pass the whole way through the patient. So an X-ray, let's go back to physics school, an X-ray is massless, has no mass,
Okay.
and it has no charge.
Okay.
So an X-ray is like light,
Okay.
but very high energy light. It's got enough energy to actually damage DNA, which is why we use it.
The tissue, yeah.
So an X-ray is massless and chargeless, and when it goes through the patient, it does interact with the patient, but it's not an extremely high probability of it interacting all of the time.
Okay,
So there is a chance one of these high energy X-rays can pass the whole way through the patient without depositing any dose.
Okay.
Aha.
But when you've got millions of these X-rays coming through, the cumulative effect is that some will.
Yeah.
The problem with X-rays is that they deposit dose as soon as they enter the patient.
Okay, so as this beam's going through me, it'll be
It will be depositing dose. So So in fact, if I draw a graph on myself, so here's the beam coming in here. Your highest amount of dose from this one beam will be very close to the surface that it enters. However, if I want to be treating something deep-seated within me, so my tumour is deep-seated, then this is getting a less dose than this part.
So that's not ideal.
So that's not ideal. That's fine. So we know that happens, and that's why we do complex treatments such as intensity modulated radiotherapy and arc therapy. So that's where you're not just giving one beam. I mean, that's 40 years old.
Okay.
What we do now is we give a range of different beams completely rotated around the patient.
Right.
And where each beam overlaps, if you imagine, you get the hot spot.
Ah, perfect. You line that up with...
And that's exactly where the tumour is.
Right.
So you need very good imaging to support where you're actually going to put the beam. So as a physicist, we are confident, within a millimetre, this is where our dose can actually be painted onto the patient. We need that supporting image of the patient once they're in that treatment position.
Oh yeah, because we move around when we lie in different positions.
We do move around, even from day to day. Anatomy changes. So
wow, big challenge then.
We'll get to the glamorous side of radiotherapy. So you get bowel gas, bladder filling.
Yes.
Children are particularly gassy, so it's quite a big problem for them.
Did not know that.
Yes. Oh, they are.
Not sure I like that fact.
So we need to have imaging to support. What is the anatomy doing today? Where do our is our treatment plan valid?
Okay.
So what are some of the kind of hot topics in radiotherapy research then at the moment?
So the big one for us at the moment is proton beam therapy, and it's very timely right now because we have the UK's first, or there's two actually, proton beam facilities that are high energy enough to actually treat deep-seated tumours.
This is great. They're building this very close to us right now actually. It's been very exciting walking past it every morning, seeing it going higher and higher and higher. But a lot happened in the basement, right? They have to bury these things really deep.
So we're in the basement. So it's on a big gantry, the beam, that rotates around the patient, and this gantry is 4 stories high. And the patient is actually suspended in the middle of that.
Wow!
That sounds a bit scary for the patient.
But it's not scary at all because there's very nice kind of fake ceilings and floors, and it looks like a very swish medical room that you enter, so the patient has no idea. But for the adventurous patients, they can go behind the scenes and see all of the particle physics engineering behind this.
Great.
So remember my graph on my body, so it's a very high dose here and then it actually drops down for X-ray. For protons, this is the real power and potential of protons. Protons have a mass, they have a charge.
Right.
They're positively charged, and so this makes them kind of more reactive in a way in the body. It's more interactions happen as soon as it enters. So the proton will enter, and it starts interacting straight away, losing energy, losing energy, losing energy. When it gets to the very end of its track, where it has the lowest amount of energy, it deposits most of its dose. So the end of a proton track is where you get a huge dose deposit.
Rather than as soon as it hits.
Soon as it hits.
And so how do you know where that is?
So you know where that is through computational models. So you know
more
what
complicated maths and physics.
So you would know, you would tune the energy of the proton beam. So you select the energy required to actually stop in the tumour. So by having a higher energy, you can go further in the patient, a lower energy, more shallow. So you tune the energy depending on where the tumour is.
Okay.
So beyond where the proton deposits its dose, there is zero dose.
So if like the heart was there or something, another organ, you can make sure it doesn't get any radiation.
That's the potential of protons.
Exciting.
As I say the word potential, because we're still having a lot of work to do in terms of knowing exactly where that proton deposits most of its dose.
Okay.
Because of patient changes and the maths involved in calculating where that dose is deposited at the very end of the track is different to X-rays, and we understand X-rays very well.
We've had years and years.
And we use CT scans to calculate very accurately for X-rays, but those CT scans aren't fully appropriate for protons.
Okay.
And we're developing now other methods to image the patient to be able to really predict where that proton will stop.
So if any of you, if your patients or any of your friends or family are thinking of undergoing radiotherapy, always talk to your specialist clinical team, but bear in mind there are some very intelligent and clever people behind the scenes. Keep an eye out for them in the hospital.
Just one note for patients. So one concern of a lot of patients undergoing X-ray radiotherapy is, why aren't I getting proton therapy if it's so much better?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's better only in some clinical cases.
Okay.
It's not beneficial. So the result that you can get between X-rays and protons is equivalent in a number of clinical cases. So the routine, say, breast, prostate, these types of things, you can get just as good a clinical result.
And you've got the benefit of years and years of experience. It's more practiced all over the country.
But there are a few patient groups that could really benefit from protons, and children is a big one. And the reason that children's a really big one is because they are more sensitive to radiation.
Oh, wow.
So there's a number of different pieces of evidence and studies that show, I'll cite a few. So if you irradiate the breast tissue of a young female, there is a much higher incidence of breast cancer later in life.
Okay.
So with some X-ray plans, it's unavoidable that you will irradiate some breast tissue. So if you, for example, some cancers you need to irradiate the whole spine and brainstem of a patient, and in doing that for a child you will go through breast tissue. For protons, because you can actually stop the radiation, you can spare fully breast tissue. So for those patients, there's a real clinical benefit.
Yeah, okay.
So thanks very much for watching. If you have any questions about radiotherapy or the research around it, drop them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel to see more, and you can also follow us on all of the social media platforms, because that's what we've been doing a lot of lately. And we'll see you next time.